Chaos, a podcast about the messiness and the beauty of entrepreneurship and innovation. And we are talking with folks all around the country, hearing their stories and hopefully sharing with candid conversations the lessons that they have for all of us on our journeys in entrepreneurship. We are so excited to have today.
Should we introduce ourselves?
We should introduce ourselves.
So who are you?
I am Jennifer Oladipo, aka Jeno.
And I am Jennifer Sutton, aka just Jen, suppose. And today we have these wonderful founders of Skills Gap. We've got Tina Zwolinski and we've got Cynthia Jenkins.
Hello.
Coming to us from LA. Tina's in the studio with us, and we are just thrilled to talk about your journeys, because we have a lot in common, but then you guys went off on like a whole different path and
Sure did.
Talk about career pivot and also founder pivot. It's and same with you, Cynthia. I mean, just let's open up and you guys tell us, what is Skills Gap? Why did you guys start this?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Just Jen.
Just Jen.
You ask yourself every day, why did I do this?
Cynthia, do you want to kick off?
Well, I will. So Tina and I actually, we co-ran along with another partner, an advertising and marketing agency that Tina actually founded 20 plus years ago, and I kind of came in the tail end. And we're doing great. In fact, met Just Jen, doing really well, and had some really amazing clients. And then Tina and I got to a ripe young age where we started to think about our legacy and what we wanted to do next. And one of the things that kind of kept coming across our desk was this skills gap that we in workforce and economic development, which doesn't sound that sexy, but it's becoming very sexy and yes, chaotic. The skills gap, basically not being able to fill key careers in specifically advanced manufacturing, anything that makes this world go round. And a lot of it was stigma associated with such careers, and kids not going down the path to either trade school or 2-year degrees or beyond. To get into some really meaningful careers. So we found ourselves doing a lot of marketing and branding campaigns. And then, I'm going to actually kick it back to Tina, who had this aha moment and just changed our worlds.
Yeah, and it was on a hike in the woods that it all kind of came to, because we were, we've worked with Generational, and we met Gen Z, who is a digital, born with the phone in their hands, and really thinking about how can we crack this nut of filling the workforce, supporting industry, and helping these kids that we were working with not be burdened with college debt, but to also be aware 4-year is for a lot of people, but there are other opportunities that have stigmas behind them. And the truth is that they can be able to go into a career without a 4-year through an apprenticeship and start at $50,000 a year. And so it really was a couple-year journey that Cynthia, the other partner, John, and myself, that doing the work, we're like, a lot of this is not solving the problem. It's kind of a Band-Aid over things. I just want. So when you said it's not so, you're talking about just the elevation from a brand marketing perspective of what's happening in workforce, or were you guys working with organizations that were trying to solve the problem, but they weren't solving the problem? Yes, that's exactly it.
Okay.
So there were websites that were being created and videos that were being created that were helping, but there wasn't this engagement and kind of what to do next, or more discovery of that's a great video of that type of career, but how much do I get paid and where do I go for it? Okay. And so that was what we were starting to crack, is what is the step that can connect that between here is what it is and what you can do with it, and then how do you get into it and where around you?
Okay.
And so that's where that started, that process.
Okay.
So being communicators then, you
Yes.
were able to really see it in a different
Yes.
way.
Yeah. And just knowing that, go ahead, Cynthia.
I was going to say the aha moment on this hike was...
Were you on the hike together, or was this a Tina on the hike?
We were on the phone together.
Oh.
We were on the phone together.
Yes, to add to the chaos, we are in different states, different coasts. But the aha moment was, what is the medium that's going to reach this next generation? And as we were on the phone, we realized it's in our hands, as it is our generation, these hands. And actually, and this was pre-COVID, but of course post-COVID, they've got 7 hours of time on their phones a day.
Right.
And so using that as a medium was really the part of the aha moment. And then, of course, the global phenomenon that is gaming, mobile gaming specifically, was one that cannot be ignored. And so as you look at gamifying this, not only this sort of skills development, but also connecting to specific careers, specific industry, and having a really dynamic, interactive engagement tool felt really fun and easy on that hike. And then
for the moment,
you were like, we need to make a game.
We're like, gaming industry.
Yeah.
And then really became the question of, are we really going to do what needs to happen to really make this work? And then became the, oh no, what do we do with 25 years of what we built? And do we tell do we tell people? Do we keep it quiet? Then all of those things start to happen in your mind. And is this crazy? But then it was, do we want to finish out our career with never having done our own product? We've done it for everybody else successfully for 25 years. And this was do we want to push it and try it for our own product and be able to take everything that we believe in behind branding and marketing and put it behind this idea and really go for it?
So how is that different? How is it different thinking about your own product versus coming in?
It's so fun. It's so fun. I mean, both of you know from being in the industry that the clients do trust you for bringing that strategic direction and the ideas that you bring to help them succeed with getting their product out or helping their service. But sometimes they don't want you to do some of the things that you suggest.
Right.
And so the interesting shift in that is really believing everything that we have put to the test over our career and learned and tested. Now we could do it for ourselves. All that we wanted to do and how we wanted to do it. And so that's been the fun part, is like, we know this works and now we can do it and fully execute it like we believe it should be.
So how was the shift also from, you could develop the strategy and the branding of how to take it to market, but what about the product development side of it?
Yeah, what about your
as
skills?
the first time that you guys had to actually create and develop the product.
Yes, a game.
And now did either one? Now did you guys have clients in the gaming industry or had kind of?
We did not.
Okay.
And you didn't have any experience yourself?
No. My kids, who I told not to play games, get outside, stop playing games. It's you need to invest in your future careers and start doing other things.
Yeah.
And then it was that we're looking around and all the kids are playing games. And so
that is the future.
Really, we just started diving into who are the developers out there, and that we wanted it to be as fun. Whoever we connected with that would become part of the team had to be building the fun games. So not just curriculum based, it had to be who works on Pokemon Go, who is working on Among Us, those type of games, even Xbox related console games. Who's building the fun so they know what those elements are that we can build into this game so it's fun, that the kids will play with some other things. And Cynthia can share it, the journey of, calling Blizzard, hey.
Yeah, it's
hey.
How did you start connecting?
This is where, I will say, is that the chaos and also the overconfidence. We did have, a long, successful career in marketing to where, Cynthia or Tina calls, the CEO will usually take that call.
Oh, right.
So I thought, well, let's just call Epic, let's call Blizzard, let's call EA, what do we have to lose? And it was the most humbling and I want to say sobering experience. However, as we went through, we ended up learning a lot of the lexicon and a lot of how games are made and how long it takes for games to be made. And so there are several that wouldn't take our meetings, and there were several that wanted to take our meetings like yesterday. And that's when we knew
that you had
we had a really good
something.
idea.
And did you guys have just the idea, or did you guys already build out the framework of here's our thought to it, or was it just here's just a Post-it note kind of an idea and maybe in a pitch deck? Like, what did you take to these folks to tell them what you wanted?
Yeah, we had been working on the business plan to kind of how it would solve, what the game needed to do, not necessarily how the play would be, but what the outcomes needed to be and what the players had to be able to do through the gameplay. So we had ideas just from branding and marketing and concepting and working in commercials and things like that. So it did help, but truly it needed to be that partner that knew what limits we could push, and should it be multiplayer, single player. What am I missing, Cynthia? Because it was a whirlwind, and it's still a whirlwind.
Of just like how to talk their language.
Yeah, tell us some more, actually, because these are a lot of people are out there. They want to. They have an idea. They know an app is the way. So, like, really, what was a lot of that stuff? Let's get into that.
Yeah,
it was actually. I mean, we were in a. I don't even know if we can say who it is, Tina, but we were in a pretty reputable game development studio, and that took a meeting with us, and they actually gave us the benefit of walking through what does go behind a game and a lot of the complexities with mobile. We, in terms of multiplayer versus single player, I mean, multiplayer is the sexy, kind of, carrot that most people in gaming want to be in. So single player, and that's, something like Words with Friends or, Scrabble kinds of games, they're more sophisticated than that. Because we wanted to keep the player's journey and proficiencies true, to not be dependent on someone else's circumstances or play, it started to kind of not write itself. I won't say that, Jen, because we know nothing writes itself. But it became really clear what lane we had to be in. And so that helped us determine which partner and development studio was going to kind of help us move along. The one thing I will say, from being in advertising and marketing before, we had lots of different clients, from weight loss to hearing technology and those kinds of things, that from a style perspective, Tina and I would immerse ourselves in whatever client that was. So we really knew everything about the client, blah, 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 blah. So that's kind of what we did here. And so we basically, we didn't want to kind of just give our idea to someone and say, okay, let us know when it's done in 3 months. And instead, we really got in the muckety muck. And we are in the muckety muck still.
Yeah.
And I will say, no one is doing this right now. And so it's one of those things that all the partners we're working with, we're all learning and discovering and inventing, and it's becoming really exciting. And we didn't realize how kind of special this was going to be. We thought it was going to be more of like a plug and play thing, but we're sort of designing it as it goes.
So was this that when you guys said, okay, this is a great idea, is there something else out there? Or did you guys then uncover, whoa, we're doing something that's very different? Or were you thinking hey, we're a solution, but there's probably other things similar out there? I mean, how cutting edge and innovative?
There was nothing. We did research. There are a couple things that help people understand, like some skills for some jobs. But as far as our focus is that geolocation, connecting the player to what is around them, what jobs are around them.
Oh, so it's hyper local.
It is hyper local.
I didn't realize that.
And so you learn that, hey, this school is your pathway into this career if you're liking this type of play.
Wow.
And then industry and pathways can actually recruit the players, that they notice you're playing, you have an investment of play in this game.
So it's two-sided.
It's two-sided.
Oh.
Okay.
So the ultimate outcome is that these students that didn't know about opportunities or in underserved areas now are aware and can advocate for their future. And then industry and states can say, hey, this is what we're doing for our workforce, or come here instead of this other state if you're going to locate your company. So there's sort of a win-win on both sides.
A tool.
Yeah.
So what did you guys have to do to prepare yourself? Again, we've got this idea, kind of your wireframe or, your structure. did you have to protect that before you walked into some of these shops, or?
Yes, I love that you brought that up, because Jennifer and I had talked about this before, how critically important, and for anybody listening, there was a lot of learning. And what we did was we asked questions, and we were fully transparent that this is new, these are the questions we have, and we want to make sure that we are protecting this idea. And so it is very important that you have attorneys that are specialized in the area that you are in, no matter who
Not
is
just
listening.
trademark and IP, you're
Not
saying
just trademark, yeah.
you need to have gaming IP.
Gaming, yes, yes.
Okay.
You want them, and then you get into the data protection. So, and students that you're dealing with that could be under 13, and so to have, we have a gaming attorney that deals with that their clients are the big gaming attorneys, because we do not want the responsibility. We want our data to be protected. We do not want any gray areas, and so we went right to the best of the best.
How did you know that? Like, did you already know that? Just from
Cynthia,
your
did you say you have
background?
3 attorneys?
We do have 3 attorneys, but the gaming attorney, that was really the one, that was the backbone, like who's the best, and that's who we're using.
Yeah.
We in terms of looking at the content and the skills development and those kinds of pathways, we knew we were going to be dealing with kids. And so in terms of, and we also are getting, school support, and, they're loving these games, and they want to incorporate them into their potentially curriculum or incentives or free time and that kind of thing. So they're very stringent on their rules. We knew we were, and actually, in this particular case, the most stringent data privacy laws are actually in Europe, based on some landmark case that I won't bore you on. But we basically took it to the highest bar, because that can also take you down. You've got a wonderful idea, and one mistake and it's over. And so we didn't want to take that risk.
That's fantastic.
And then to what you said earlier, your name immediately, getting that trademark registered, logos, just going back to our old days and already knowing that. So that was easy. But again, and that one you can work with different attorneys, so that's the one you can play with the pricing on. But
the gaming and the data.
Yeah. And then you learn with attorneys, you get right to the point and you're ready.
Yeah. Yeah. And was it like your IP attorney for your logo and your trademark, they were like, I shouldn't be the one that represents that, or did that come from?
That came from us.
You guys.
We went let's get a patent attorney that understands gaming, so that if we look at, it's really hard to patent technology because of how quickly it changes, and there's so much out there. And so could we get to an idea where something could be patentable, and we want to be able to have someone that can speak directly into that. So that was really critically important. And those were the areas that we said we're going to invest when it comes to the gaming, privacy, terms of service, and then our patentability, that's where we put our money.
All protected.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what other, what was the biggest aha moment you had over the last couple of years of your journey?
Okay, and then what was the biggest oh shit moment?
Yeah, that was
I mean, for the oh shit moment was, are we really going to walk away from what we've built into something completely new? And it was like, we're going to have to put a stake in the ground, because it can't be both. If we're really going to.
Why not?
Because technology changes so fast, and you can be copied, or something else can come out, and your idea will be gone very quickly.
So the staff that you had with the marketing agency no longer were applicable with the path that you were going on.
On the branding side, yes, and they still help on some of that.
Right.
But we really knew that it would have to be fast, and it would have to scale super fast, and that we would have to be 100% committed to it. So we knew that we had to start having those conversations with our team that, listen, over the next year, this is what's going to happen. We're not taking on new accounts. We're placing and selling. And so what would that look like? And it was we had the best team. And so very understanding. And they've known what we've been talking about for years. We just didn't know what it was going to be yet. And to this day, they are so supportive. But that was the hardest, because that was a family, and it was like, we don't want to undo this, but we also do not want to end our careers not having tried this.
Right.
So it was tough. It was really hard. And I had shared too that just even like we didn't talk to a lot of outsiders about it, even family. Like they were going to be like, what are you doing? You've built this and you've invested in all of these years of relationships, or going to a client to say, we are doing gaming. Well, it's really workforce development.
Workforce development.
It's workforce development, and gaming is just the tool for it. But it was a little nerve-wracking because we didn't know what we were doing, and to this day we don't know what the future holds, but we're excited and we're having successes. But that for me was I can't believe we have been talking about this, but now we're going to say we're doing it.
What about you, Cynthia? Was that yours or?
No, that was not. I mean, I feel like the aha and the oh shits are the same moment for me, and they probably happen daily. So the aha is basically that the moment we did start to kind of scratch the surface and start talking about it and get our idea down to where we felt like we could execute, the amount of interest from the level of stakeholders, even up into the government federal level, was like, wow, this is a problem, and we have come up with a solution that got their attention. And then oh shit. You know, the amount of I don't really know what I'm talking about, but I'll figure it out. You know, so it's the interest, the momentum was really fast. And a lot of that was perpetuated by COVID. So I'm not saying it's just because we had an amazing idea. It was very circumstantial too that kind of helped ramp it up. But it's every day, I'll say, is a little bit of an aha and an oh shit.
Yeah, the aha for me was we wanted to soft launch because we still had some clients that we're still finishing up some projects with. And so we were like, well, let's just soft launch and kind of quietly, kind of, you know, like all of us that are having, you know, startups that you think about, like, and then it was like, we got a call and they're like, we want to do the game. And we're like, well, okay. And we call them
It's like the little bell.
Yes, we're like, well, hold on. Okay, this is real. And it was like that. Like, we call them our original gamesters because they still are doing games with us today. And they really are the ones that like saw that soft release and then went for it and really helped us kick off. So it was like, that Cynthia, same thing, like, it's here. We're right. We found it.
Yeah.
And that's what's been fun, even like to this day when a certain state, like I hope we one day do something in that state. And then you didn't call them and they called you. And it was like, oh my God, it's a win. It's a win. It's so exciting. So that's those aha moments, is that call that's like, if we ever had this company. And so now it's just so exciting. It's so fun.
When your vision actually becomes reality.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's that. And when someone actually is like, they'll say, this is, you cracked it. This is it. You got it. And it's like,
and it's your baby because it's your product.
Yeah. We don't react on the call, but then after the call, we're like, oh my gosh.
No, I know. Well, that's a good point, Jen, is, you know, we being from branding and marketing, like we were in the service industry, and then now we're jumped over to the product. Yeah. You know, we have a product, not a service. I mean, it's service oriented, but so that part, knowing it's something you can almost touch and feel has been exciting. But I will say, you know, as a startup, you know, as much as we're getting those phone calls, it's really exciting. We're very, very lean and mean. And so it's a lot of work. And so it's easy. I will say it's really easy to be tempted by shiny things. Like, let's say someone calls about a game that doesn't really align with our mission of connecting kids to careers through game-changing play. And that's been, as a branding and marketer, as you both know, it's hard to walk away from something that could help keep the lights on, but we feel really good about knowing we need to,
right?
Because that only will cannibalize the success of the product. So that's a challenge.
So staying focused,
Definitely.
staying true to the mission.
How do you do that? I mean, do you regroup? Do you have a team conversation? You know, to talk about that, because that is an issue that a lot of people have, especially when that momentum's going and things are popular and stuff starts coming out of the woodwork.
Well, for Cynthia, with the partnership and having done all the work together with the Zwo branding and marketing, we have we know each other, and when one of us has that doubt, the other just steps in and delivers the clarity. And so it really has been where one of us might be like, well, what, maybe? And then the other like, no, we're holding the line. And okay, all right, then we're all refocused. And so it's really helpful in business. That partnership is just fun. And it's nice to have the person, when you're down, they pull you up. And when you need a check, they check you. And that's what Cynthia and I are for each other. And it just makes business fun. And we have hard days and hard conversations, but we have each other's back.
Yeah.
And that's what's really that checking point of, we're not doing that, or we're going to take a risk on
that.
on this type of an attorney or this type of an initiative that's really probably we shouldn't invest in, but we know that where we need to go, and so it's like, let's do it.
You mean
Right.
probably we shouldn't, like, from a bottom line
Point
Yeah.
standpoint, but it's like if we're
writing
gonna
those
scale,
checks can
yes,
be sometimes
like we're gonna commit to
we're gonna
what?
what?
But then we know like what that will bring, and so we're like, remember why we're doing this and why we undid what we were doing to scale this fast.
Right.
And so we cannot go slow as long as it's a responsible decision. Like we've researched it and checked it to know that it's a little bit of a risk, but there's some comfort, some
You've already
walls
kind
in
of built
place.
a criteria around that.
Mhm.
How
I think that's part of it to what you're just about to say. That's part of it is as we do look at some advisors and as we do make these decisions that may make zero sense financially. But if we look at the bottom line or the P&L, that one line item of, well, how many kids are we going to help? There is that. I mean, not that we're solely altruistic. We are a for-profit company, but that's helped really, really guide our decisions. And it's not always a popular one with those that advise us.
So I was going to ask you about that, like the team structure. Do you guys have a board of directors or a
Advisory
formal
board?
advisory board, or is it just your community or your network that you're tapping into for advice?
It started with friends that have built and scaled businesses quickly. And so, but as we're further along, just to Cynthia's point, how many students can we impact with this? And you put your eyes globally instead of just locally.
Mm-hmm.
And so for us, it became we need advisors that have connections and a network in other countries that we don't, and can open a door very quickly. And then also some things with just scaling a company and, where we might not have quite the expertise, that's where we're looking to those advisors. And so being an LLC, we're looking for more of an advisory board.
Right.
and how we work with that. But we're definitely looking for, we have one currently, but just looking at the opportunities for where are those opportunities to take this where we envision it being, to meet that vision, and then who would be the best to be alongside in that role.
So you're still formulating your board of advisors
Yes.
as you guys are scaling along.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I would say by the end of the year that we would, probably about 2, 3,
Okay.
4 max, to have a couple year kind of alongside to really push us, and then their network.
And then as part of your team and your infrastructure, you guys are partnering with these gaming development shops. Are you guys eventually, is that something that you're going, no, to scale, we're gonna be our own shop? I mean, what is that vision? What's that infrastructure that you're having to build out? Or the decisions, maybe that's...
Yeah, it has to be our own shop. And so that's what we're building is everything is in-house. Now there might be some a little project that needs some extra work here that is freelanced out but in order as a company to be able to test things and adjust things and push things, especially with how fast technology changes, it's got to be all in-house. So our game studio is called Skillionaire Games. The parent company
Skillionaire.
is Skillionaire. Who doesn't want to be a skillionaire?
I know, that's...
Give me all the skills. Give me all the
Skillionaire.
skills.
Who came up with that name? Was that
Give
Cynthia?
credit. And it's funny with partners. So the Skills Gap, when we were naming the company, and both of us are throwing out ideas, and so Cynthia had come up with Skills Gap. I'm like, oh. No, never.
You were saying no. I love the name.
So how did you decide? Because partner problems.
Yeah.
Right. So really, it was like just sitting on it, and then it's like, it's so brilliant. It's the problem and solution in one word. How is it not seen? And then truly, then that was the whole lots of names were thrown out, and Skillionaire was part of the original, but now we love it as the skills gap is B2B. The industry and states understand that they have a skills gap.
Right.
Yeah.
And so they get that topic. But, a student's never going to want to hear the word skills gap.
Right.
Yeah.
But being a Skillionaire and having Skillionaire bucks and earning Skillionaire badges.
Yeah.
I love it.
Really is fun. So that's sort of the parent company B2B, and then the B2C is the Skillionaire Games, and then Cynthia, we've got some really fun names for the different industry games that we do. That's cyber and life science.
Yeah, well, we have, I don't know if we can say all of them yet, but so our current, but I will tell you this. So, for example, our cyber game is deploying soon. Cybersecurity and IT, which of course is a huge growing need that Tina and I had never expected. And that's one of those examples that's a shiny thing that really made sense for us to address. But we had these amazing names like Hacktive Duty and What the Hack and Tested and Tested. And we ended up with what Tested in focus groups is Cyber Watchdog. And so that's what's coming next to Cyber Watchdog, and it's just really interesting as from branding and marketing. Like, we just thought we were geniuses and we had all these wonderful names. We have to go to and actually all of them. The one thing that I will say is we do have this brand persona being really optimistic, and you want to be the hero in a game, which we've learned a lot about gaming and having personal agency. So we do have some. Well, it's a dog. We do have usually like humanity or some sort of personification in our game names. Mm-hmm. So that kind of convention is something that those little things have been really fun.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So I'd love to hear more about the partners. So you've got industry partners. I know that I saw you at SC Bio, which is the South Carolina Life Sciences Organization. That's the state version of the national organization. And so talk about building those relationships and getting those industry partners or sort of para-industry partners on your side. Are they helping you open doors? Like, how is that? Talk about those conversations.
Yes, and going from a certain type of partners that we had from branding and marketing side into this whole new world has been another aha and oh shit together as well. The different types of. So for us, the perfect group that gets this and can help move it quickly is industry, because it is aerospace that knows they need people on the line.
So when you say industry, it's like people that need talent.
Yeah, it is the large companies in South Carolina. So it was Nephron Pharmaceuticals that was like, we need these people and we can't get them. Or they come in and then they don't show up the next day because they weren't really sure what the job was. And once they realize what it is, they're going somewhere else. Yeah. And so they realize, hey, not only do we need these people, but we also understand that the students are not understanding what life science. It's amazing that people, and then they don't think of it as STEM, but it is STEM. And so we realize that industry knows that there is a lot of education in that stigma of the types of jobs, but then also even like what is life science and what is STEM, and getting those kids excited in middle school has made industry really excited, because they can spark that you can solve, you can cure cancer. But in order to do that, you have to start with a science program in high school. Or if you love makeup and what's involved in that, well, that's science. Mm-hmm. And so now students go into the course because they've been kind of like, you capture that creativity in middle school, and then we feed them into these are the pathways into that and the types of jobs. So industry gets excited about it because they can be a part of it and they can be involved, and then their company name is known, but that's just part of their foundational is supporting the educational pathway. So that's who gets it first, because they know the need and they know what they're paying for turnover and what they're paying for marketing to recruit people for the jobs. Right. The second group is really economic development and workforce development, because they know that they're competing against other states, and workforce is the number one checkbox for all companies looking where they're going to go. Right. And it's been that way for 20 years, but it's more so now than ever, especially that workforce pipeline. So all things equal, your workforce pipeline is not being fostered and developed. That company is going to go to the place that is. That's right. And so now you see the race of, we need to be the innovators and early adopters of things that are different from what everyone else is doing, because companies are looking to be in that right location. If you have the land and you have the utilities and you have some incentives, show us your workforce and what you're doing for us. Right. And to keep companies. So so those are the two we go to. We do not, we want to be alongside the schools and supportive of schools, but going in through the Department of Ed is a longer process. It's a good process. There's good programs in place with schools, but we found that in order for it to be used more, to really get the students to engage and to have a little more flexibility in what we do with competitions, being supported by the schools and helping them have ideas for competitions at the end of a class to use for homework incentives, but really get the kids playing out of school, middle, high school, even out of high school where they haven't moved on because of COVID, or maybe they got to college and they dropped out. 50% do.
Yeah.
But they didn't know about these careers, but they play games in their downtime.
Right.
So if they can be introduced to this and find that, oh, this place has a job fair next week and I know I like it, and then they ask me to come, then there's some really wins. So that's where we start. Industry, they get it, and they're the innovators, and so they get innovation. And are a little bit earlier on adopting versus you get into economic development where they've done things first, and things become sort of a process and system. But you get the few that are like, we got to do something different.
Right.
And so that's the wins for us.
From a revenue model perspective, who's buying? Who's paying you? Is it the industries? Is it the economic developers? Like
Maybe Cynthia could speak to that.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, it's a couple different ways. It's more of like a co-op sort of situation. So industry may put in some money, something like, for example, SC Bio through foundational funding, grants, government. Each one is sort of built a little bit differently depending on who wants to be behind the game. The one thing I was going to say though, Jen, about what you were saying is, as Tina was saying, it's industry, it's economic development, and then from a tertiary perspective, it's Department of Ed. To even be invited to the table when we're kind of nobodies during COVID was something that I actually have to tip my hat to Tina, because there are no networking. There's no networking. There's no meetings. There's no trade shows. There's nothing like that to hand your business card out. So it was, clearly there was a pain point of having to get through via email or phone to basically say, what are you doing to fill your skills gap right now? And you just, blank stares. And so Tina was really able to make these meaningful connections, and it's just been kind of like popcorn, it's kind of getting around to these normally industry, Department Ed, and workforce development. We're kind of siloed, and Tina is like this mother hen and just slowly brings them all together. So they think oh my gosh, we just handle this together, problem solved.
well, that's kind of incredible, because those silos are serious.
They are. There's some walls there.
Yeah. And you see it from, my background as a business reporter. I mean, and then there's the lack of information sharing, and then the sense of competitiveness from different organizations.
Yeah, and the lack of connections, or sometimes just the knowledge base of what happens outside of their little sphere.
Silo, yeah.
So was that just you, continuing to email different people, making fun, how did you break those barriers?
You could write a book.
Because I'm assuming it wasn't just one email that you were like, no. Hey, I've got this great idea,
It really came to picking up the phone, and everyone's at home,
right.
So I mean, it was a nice. But what was really neat is, because of our background in economic development, where funding, where the strings stop, and where some funds are, and who's doing what. So you're able on that call when they're like, yeah, well, we don't have the funds for, and then you can immediately shift into a conversation of, well, what is industry paying, and being able to say, well, did you know, and we stay up on what's being looked at in legislation at a government, at federal level, so we can say, are you aware of this funding coming down, and that this is allowed to be used for this? So we really even help the partners, what if we get you in touch with this group,
connected up a grant,
like a collaborative of, let's talk to this company that's in that area, and maybe their foundation and this economic group and this funding for a CTE program could all work together to fund it. So it's really helping them think through, because of what you said. They might not know what's in the other area, but if you can help connect the dots and get a call with a team of people, and then they all, because it should all work together.
Right.
Yeah. And then that helps to okay, and then it flows. But it is that phone call and relationship building, or who has a relationship, like it is in a lot of the industries, but having, like, we had so many relationships in the old industry that it was like word of mouth, and now you're like, you don't know who I am.
Yeah, but you still have that instinct,
calling
though,
about gaming.
Because as you were talking about the way you connected the dots, that's definitely like from your background,
yes.
And so even though the material isn't there, the instinct to find it and know where to look for it still is, and know how to be a resource, because you're always trying to get as deep into the business as you can and really understand their problem and help them solve their problems. And it sounds like you just took that into this completely new business, but you're taking that same
and that competitive
approach.
nature. And I have a friend that I worked with way back in early days in branding and marketing. He's like one of the top salespeople I know. And I was like, I hate cold calling. I just can't stand it. It's awful. And he's like, Tina, nobody likes cold calling. I'm like, you don't like cold calling? What? And then he's like, treat it like a lottery. Scratch off. Sometimes you're going to win, sometimes you don't. And then once I had that, because I hate being told no, but I also know that no is not the end. But when you're selling your own thing now, it's like, oh. So it really became like igniting that competition spirit in me. Like, how many today am I going to get to at least like have a second call or let me send them something? So, and that's still in me because we're still in that early, like going out and competing. So,
the dialing for dollars.
Dialing for dollars.
We're back at that, because that's the world I'm living in right now, is the dialing for dollars. And it is a different shift too of, when we were in the agency world to sell the marketing services, it was get to the know faster.
Yes.
That was kind of the get to the know faster was the strategy of, look, let me get this, all the conversation out in that first meeting, and then you can tell me no, or, call me back in 6 months or whatever, but just say no so I can move on.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But I've noticed with a new business and endeavor and a product, it's not the same. It's a not yet.
Or who can you help? Like, who do you know that this might be meaningful to?
Or you don't have same thing. You don't have the funding, but I know somebody that does. Let's all work together more but so it's a different.
Yes, different. It's like you flipped it to the other side.
That's interesting. So is that how? So as in your path as you guys are moving, is the plan to own the company, like get investors, or are you guys going to try to keep it?
We are self-funders, and we are holding tight. We want to own that woman-owned and the technology world. I can't tell you how many calls I've had because they saw woman-owned technology on the bottom, and that was the reason why they gave us the call. But it's just something that we believed in and want to hold on to, and we will bring, we're open to investors when it can scale us or there's a need for another part to be brought into the company, and that's where we would say yes to scaling, but never will we ever. I have spent, I don't know how many weekends and drives listening to podcasts where people I love what you're doing and sharing the transparency and the fails and the wins, and for years listening to that, to know that, hearing what other mistakes people have made, to know that Cynthia and I are not going to lose majority ownership of our company ever. No matter what that means for her and I to dig and beg other ways. That's really important to us to keep that.
And I think that is it. I can see it's tempting, because we're tired. And it would be wonderful to have an infusion of capital to take some of that burden or weight off. However, I will say, and she'll save the good podcast for me, I take shorter walks and shorter drives into this. But Tina referenced our partnership is we do tend to you go and go and go, and then you have to. It's the moment you have to put the baton down because you're just can't go any farther. The other one picks it up, and so we have a level of stamina that has been able to sort of preserve our not only resources but our resolve. So I can't imagine being a sole proprietor and going through this. There's no way. I also, 2 happens to be our magic number, but if you, a partnership to me is the secret sauce. Obviously, a partnership with Tina is my secret sauce. But I believe when we have a good idea, it's a good time, and it's a big problem that needs to be solved. It's to have a partnership that works like this, where basically both of our families are taking the risk as well.
Right.
That's, I mean, if there's one takeaway other than having a really good idea and sticking to your mission, it's, if you are in a partnership, is make sure you have one like Tina.
Yes.
Well, it's like it's an all in. It's somebody that's an all in.
All
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all in. Yeah.
Do you guys have an exit plan? Have you guys talked about that as a partner of like?
This is Jennifer. This is so Jennifer. Like,
I love it.
Sorry.
she's like all the way. Talk about all in.
I think early on we talked about things, and now, like, you know, we had such a great team at Zwo, and then we're like, well, what will this look like going into a new company and new relationships? And now as we look to the team members that are on there and thinking about building them up to leadership and developing their skills, and they're so passionate about what they're doing that I think Cynthia and I just sit on this thing like, what does it look like, and how great it would be to like be sitting not retired, but enjoying what we built, but also having this great team that was built up, and you know, we fostered their development, and they're leading it and running it.
Yeah.
And what does that look like in multiple countries and languages, and what that could be. So now I think Cynthia and I were maybe like 5 years, let's give it 5 years, that now we're like, yeah, we'll be burned out in 5 years for
Yeah.
sure.
Really.
But our team is like such great talent and caring that I'd love to see where they could take it, or who knows.
Well, the only reason I brought that up, and I love your answer, Tina, and said the fact that you guys have even talked about it. I mean, some of the accelerator programs that I've been a part of forced us to, as founders in this group of like 150 founders across the country, that was our first assignment. It was, you need to describe the exit. It's not a number of years. It was, what does it look like for you to say, I'm ready to let go. So it was like, this is my team. This is what I'm in this many locations, or, you know, maybe it is a financial, you know, kind of milestone, but it was, they force you to really think through of like, what does my vision for my business in a very tangible, and it was you know, I'd been in business for, by that time, 8 years, but I had never really, I thought of it as like, I'm probably going to be done around this time.
Yeah.
You know, kind of like an age milestone.
Yes.
And it was interesting that we all had to kind of take that step back, and it challenged a lot of us that I wasn't the only one that hadn't really talked about it with our leadership team at the company, or my husband, who's our CFO. And I had to go back and like, what does this look like? So I love the fact that you guys have already kind of talked about it.
Was that an effort to get you to like realize the value of what you were trying to do, or aspire to a certain value? Or
It was
that?
part of that, and also really stretching yourself of what's your company mission and vision. So they were like, because a lot of business coaches will say, start with your vision,
Mm-hmm.
and then then do your business plan around that. And this coach was, I want you to describe your exit.
Mm-hmm.
Of what does that look like when you say, I'm ready to let go of this baby. And then they're like, now formulate your vision. Based on that, now formulate your mission based on that. So it was
Vision to get to that point.
That's right.
Okay.
And so it was an interesting exercise that I had never had gone through after, you know, multiple coaches and you know,
But
doing
hearing
it for
you-
other clients.
Hearing you say that now, though, so when we talk about like people and skilling, so for Cynthia and I, we were like, well, if we get to this kind, like if we can reach global play where we actually like, we hear about a story of someone out in India that played this game and now they're in technology, like that's for us, like what's the reach to reach the underserved that would not have had that job or that skill. But then like as we got into even just like our own team, and so that's when sharing that, and now it was really like that skills development where you get people to like push them to another level where they wouldn't have been otherwise. So I think for us now, that is what we're.
It's a good challenge, though. I appreciate that question because
Yes.
I believe it's changed a lot to where, even if you look at our vision of connecting kids to life-changing careers through game-changing play, it's like in the world where it was just like, I want this state and this state. Now we're like,
Where?
We have more.
Who do we know in India? Who do we know in Brazil? Like,
but it's a really good. It's funny. It seems counterintuitive because you're like, oh gosh, we just got started. Why are we talking about it ending?
Yeah.
But I appreciate the question. I don't even know how to answer it.
Yeah.
I will say, Jennifer, to your point, it drives you then.
Right.
So we're like, when you think about the speed, like we have got to move quickly if we're going to accomplish that. And so I think that really helps drive you.
Right.
Every day you get up and you're like, okay, that's what I'm aiming
what I'm
for.
doing. Yeah.
So I've got to do this to get to that.
Yeah, because some people were, in conversations with other founders, it was become, their picture was, I want to build the business up to hand off to a succession plan with children, or I want to develop where I've got 10 people around my leadership team and I'm selling the business back to then an employee buyback program versus, and some go, no, I'm trying to build this because I want some investor to come in and buy me out for, I wanted to build up the business so everybody has their own vision of where they want their business to be. But it was just an interesting exercise. That's why I asked the question. And it was, the fact that you guys kind of already had that in just such a short time that you guys have done this. So it's, very cool.
And I think money has come to the table, and we have really put a stake in the ground when they've come in, and just like even when we're thinking about the advisors, they have to be aligned with our mission and vision because it is not about, oh, that's so great because of who this person is. It doesn't matter because if they don't, like inside of you, you're like, oh, that's so exciting, but it can be a nightmare. And I have had very close friends that I have watched go public with companies and different board situations, and watching the pains and the struggles that can come along with either a bad investor or going public and what you're responsible for that point, and it takes the joy out in what we're doing. We do not want that stress every day to have to answer to someone that doesn't even get your vision or mission, or to ever be public in a way that it's changed, that you're accountable for $1 versus a life. And so for us, like that's off the table.
Right.
What is, like if you start looking at numbers, you're not taking the money with you. So yes, it's fun to do well and all that, and we want to do well.
Right.
But it's, you have these billionaires out there, but can you spend $1 billion? Like, what can you do?
Yeah.
What can you do? So
they're going to hoard it. They're going to take it.
yes. I love watching them do it with it.
They could be more interesting sometimes. In my opinion, there's a serious lack of imagination among billionaires. But if you're listening, that's Jeno's opinion. Oh man, this has been awesome. I feel like we could go on forever.
I know. We'll have to do cocktails.
You're going to do cocktails and continue this conversation.
Yeah. But
right. Or we might have to fly out to see you.
Yes. Girls trip.
Let's do it.
Girls trip. That's right.
But thank you so much for being so transparent and honest about everything that's been going on. This is really, really great. I think a lot of people will get a lot out of it.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, thank you for having us. And just because of all of our backgrounds, being able to share these stories and hear your stories and what we're all going through. And, I heard a stat when we were launching this that the most successful businesses happen to the entrepreneurs after 50.
Yeah.
So
That's
here we
right.
go.
That's right.
Here we go. You have to wait a while.
That's okay, not that long.
We're pulling you along.
I'm learning everybody's lessons. See, that's why I'm sitting here.
And the fact that, you're the uniqueness of a woman-owned business in tech, in gaming.
Yeah.
And when you look at the stories of women in the gaming company, and you just have to just scroll down LinkedIn and what's been happening at the companies with Blizzard and how the women are treated, it's not good. And so we're excited to lift women up in our technology and gaming company and leadership. I mean, equality for all in the company, but because of what we've seen in the industry and what the reputation is, to be able to that is not going to happen on our watch with our company and our culture ever. We'll shut it down before that ever happens. So it's exciting to build our culture and have people. We've hired a culture experience leader to make sure that everybody's development and all. And that was one of those investments that you're like, oh no. But if you don't start right away, you start to, it can get toxic fast.
Yeah, if you're moving with that kind of speed.
You can't undo culture.
Yeah. And you said it's a cultural experience leader?
Yes.
Okay.
Could you share that resource, maybe if not the specific, but just how you made, I think that's one of those things that'd be really great for people who are, for other entrepreneurs to know about, because that's the first, I'm not familiar with that term actually.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
I know.
Thank you so much, ladies. I mean, it's an honor to even be invited to this. Just sort of, again, you sort of validate, like, we were really doing this. We were just asked to be on.
Hello, Chaos. Congratulations to you both, too. This also
thanks. This is
a
fun.
need, and just the way for people to be able to, that are in this world, to hear from others and to learn from others and get that little aha, or like, I better not do that.
That's right.
It's going to be fantastic.
And you know, our biggest thing is we keep hearing we're not alone.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? And there is a community here that we can build at a national level, international level.
So exciting.
So yeah, we're excited. And you can listen to this podcast. It will be available across all podcast platforms. So the Spotify, iTunes, wherever you get your podcasts, it will be available there. And it's also available in the local city zines that will be rolling out to a city near you. First off is the South Carolina markets. So you will also be able to access the podcast through those digital digests.
And those are open access, ungated. Just needs email and a name, so we can get to know you, so you can get to know us. And
no paywall.
No paywall.
That's right.
Just
Content is free.
Exactly. Well, thanks so much. Enjoy the rest of your. It's the weekend. It's Friday. It is Friday at 4:30 for anybody who's listening. So we are like at the end of the week
on the East
here.
Coast, not for Cynthia.
That's true. That's true.
Cynthia, you have a few more hours. So we're gonna go have a drink.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, ladies. What an honor.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.